Let us continue with our lesson. And what next is that we need to get the tags from the local DB, because you can see that after we get the tags by ID from the API, then we are inserting it to the local DB. And after we insert it to the local DB, then we need to get it back from the local DB and populate it to our view. So how we can do that is we will first of all create a function over here, a private function, and get tags from DB. So we get the tags from the DB, and let me implement a try catch block over here, and that's the catch, and that's the error over here, which is of the exception of the outline. And let me copy this one and paste it over here. And in the try block, I will make use of the coroutine scope, and it should be of our dispatcher.io. And let us launch the scope. And inside the scope, I will get the data. So for val data, each of equals to, I will get a tags repository dot get all tags from the DB. So we will get all the tags from the DB. So now we have this tags DB. If you go to repository, get all tags from DB is calling this function, which is the DAO. So here it's returning the tags entity. So it is returning the tags entity. So if you go to the view model, and we should create a one variable. So over here, if you see with the tags list, it's a mutable tags list of the tags response, but we need a tags entity. So I'll just copy this one, and below this one, let's create a tags list from DB. Let's say tags list from a DB, and this should be of our tags entity. So we have a tags entity of tags list from DB, and here we can say that the tags list from DB dot post the value of the data. So that should update the tags list from the DB, and we are posting it the data. So now if you go to the fragment over here, and if you check that we have a tags array list of a tags response, but we don't need a tags response now because we need a tags entity. So we need a tags entity. So for that, what I will do is in the home fragment, I will replace this tags response from the tags entity. So just call it tags list as a tags entity. And here in the tags adapter, we are also making use of a tags, the tags list that we previously used as a tags response. So if you go to the tags adapter, here it's a tags response. So I need to change it to the tags entity because we are getting it from the local DB. And tags here, tags, and tags response, because we are calling a tags response, it should be of a tags entity. So we need to change it. So that's we have to change over there. And the tags binding over here, the binding is also based on the particular, if you go to the holder.tags binding, it's taking up. If you go over here into the response and to do and the tags response, we have implemented this one. So now I can copy the holding this one, right? So I need to copy this one, and I need to go to the here, so tags entity. Over here, let me implement the same thing. So I will implement the same thing, and let me close this tags. Sorry, let me close the adapter, and in the adapter, I need to go to the view. So let me go to the res and go to this. So just make sure you follow it correctly, because we have to change a lot of things over here because we are updating the response there. So I will go to the tags adapter. So here that should be on the custom tags list view. Here instead of the tags response, I need to change it to the tags entity, right? So not over here, I'll just remove over this one. So I can say tax entity over here. Just implement the tax entity, and that should be gone because we have the same data. Only some of these are, we have the same all of this data. So like the title, body is always there in the tax entity. So we don't have to worry about the data loss. And that should fix our tax adapter. And let me go over here in the fragment. We now don't need to call this get tax because we are not using that anymore. So if you go to over here, and we are not using that anymore, get all tax. Now we have to observe this particular tax list from DB. So let's go over here, and in the observer somewhere here, let me observe that one. So view model, right? View model dot tax list from DB dot observe, and it should be of a view lifecycle owner, and let us observe that particular value. So when we observe it, now we can get the tax, and I will just copy all of this, right? So I will copy this and paste it over here, and I will clear the tax list that we currently have, and then we will set it to the tax list, and then we will set the recycle view, right? CYCLE recycle view, and we will set the recycle view. So where is that recycle view? Okay, here. So we don't have to worry this one, and only things is that we don't need this one anymore. So I can just remove this one because we are not going to use that anymore. And over here, I'm not going to call that anymore because I don't need it anymore. Because I am observing that particular data change in the tax list from the DB. So whenever tax list from the DB changes, then it will update our recycle view. And over here, to get tax from DB, is we need to call it from here. So after we have fill in the data, right? For after we have for loop over here, so that should fill in the data, and then we will go and call this particular function. So let me copy this function name, and then here we will say get the tax from DB. Okay, and let's paste that one function over here. So get the tax from the DB after we have inserted it, and that should be fine. All right, so we have done it, and next is that to get the DB, get the tax from the DB. We are calling it from get tax by ID. So get tax by ID will go to the API and get all of the data that we have in the API, and it will insert it to the local DB, and after it got inserted to the local DB, then we will call this tax get tax from DB, or we will get the data from the local DB and populate it to our recycle view. So that's the thing that we are doing over here. And next thing is that we can check for the internet connection. So if we go over here, I think we have a, let's go to the util and the network over here, network helper, and it's checking for the network connection. So what we need to do is we need to check for the network connection, and if there is no network connection, then we'll just get the data from the local DB directly instead of going to the particular API. So for that, I will create a context private variable over here. So I will just say a private val of context, sorry, should be a context, context of the context, and that should be equals to null first, and let us make it as a nullable. And over here in the init block, I will say that context is equals to application. Okay, we need to change this one val to var because we need to assign it. So we have a context over here, and this context we can now make use over here. Here I can just say as what we have, it's a network helper, right? So network helper dot is network connected, and I will need to pass the context. So I'll pass this context, and what it says over here, context found. So we can just check as a not now, and if I need to make use of the if condition over here. So if network helper that it's connected, right? If it is connected, then we will go and make use of this, all of this. So just copy the whole thing. So I will cut the whole thing and paste it inside this if condition. And if there is no internet connection, if this is internet connected, then we'll go and get it, everything from the API and insert it to the local DB, then get from the DB. But if it is not, then we will say else part. If there is no internet connection, then what I will do is I will just go and get the data from the local DB. There's no need to go to the API, so we'll just get it from the local DB. Okay, so that's it. So that's look good, and our things, most of the things are done over here, and the only thing that we need now is to implement our API endpoint in the REST API server. And the other thing that we don't need anything to do. So later we'll change again some more things that we need still. So we'll meet up in the next lecture, and we will work with our backend API to fix this API that we are getting. So it will be from where is that one? Now we need to create this one in our backend. So let's meet up in the next lecture. Till then, have a great day.